Hey, joyful journeyers. Nita Adams here, your host, and I'm so excited to bring an interview with my friend, Winston Yeung. Hey, Winston, how's it going?
Doing great, Anita. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks again for being a part of this. So, joyful journeyers, let me tell you a little bit more about Winston. Winston is the founder of a really cool organization called VoiceStory, an initiative that was designed to tackle the issue of social isolation that is prevalent in today's society, which is caused by things like working remotely, our addiction to mobile devices, and all the time we're spending on social media, and that lack of spaces which promotes deeper connection and conversations. And of course, COVID-19 has not helped any. It's in fact intensified that sense of social isolation. When I learned Winston's personal story that led him to start VoiceStory, I was intrigued and understood that Winston was someone who needed to be on the Joyful Journey podcast. He is someone who has learned how to tap into his own inner wisdom and listen to it, which guided him out of the dark and into the light. And now he's helping so many other people do the same. And I believe his story is going to resonate with many of you today. So I'm grateful for you to be here with us, Winston. Thank you again for making time for this. And let's dive in. So when I was doing a little bit more research on you, and I found something you wrote. It was on LinkedIn, and I want to start there because I thought it really captured my interest. You said, I was a prisoner to the dysfunctional stories I created, lost in the land of illusion of my own design. It took many years, but eventually I walked out of my prison and am now living a life aligned with spirit, body, and mind. Wow, you pack a lot of punch into those two sentences. And you know what? I believe that there are a lot of people that have been there or are currently in that position, a prisoner of dysfunctional stories that they've created, that we've created, lost in an illusion. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. There's two things. I want to know what are the stories that you told yourself that kept you feeling like a prisoner, if you're willing to share. And I think perhaps the more important question is, what happened to break you free?
I hope we have enough time to to cover all of that. I was very unaware of, I call it the conditioning that was placed upon me. And many people, I would say the majority of the population on the planet, are not aware of that because we're just raised and we are the way we are, and we never question it. So I grew up in a culture where men don't express, men don't share their feelings, they don't show your emotions, you have to figure it out. If you don't figure it out, then I was always told, like, well, are you a man or not? So that, as you can probably see, sets up some certain really weird ideas about how I'm supposed to act around this. Every time I would show some accomplishments, because my parents were born from a generation where you're supposed to be humble, you're not supposed to praise anybody, you never got any acknowledgement. So everything that I did to get acknowledgement just compounded on the fact that I never got it. So whatever I did was never good enough. So I had to do better. Now, from the work I've done with people, I can see how that can go two ways. One, it just turns you into someone that goes, I'm not good enough, and you hide from the world. Or you do what I did, where I hypercompensated and proved to the world that I belong, that I am somebody. So I went from this person that was told you're not good enough, no matter how hard you work, you can always do better, and you can't tell anyone about how you're feeling, so you just have to do this and present to the world that everything's a-okay. And that just led me down a path of it was unattainable, for one. and it led me down a path where I suppressed almost all emotion, and I'm just walking around like a zombie.
Mm.
Uh, the story that I tell all the time, when I was a kid, I got 100% on a math test, ran home with the paper, showed it to my mom, and she looked at it and just goes, "You could have done better." I'm like, I don't understand. I got a perfect mark. She goes, "You missed the bonus question. Who else got the bonus question right?" And that's when I knew I had to go. I had to go do something better to get the attention, the acknowledgement, the love from my parents. And these were the stories that started forming. So without any type of intervention from someone else, I started formulating stories that I'm not good enough. No matter what I did isn't good enough. No one wants me if no one wants me unless I give them something worthy of their acknowledgement. So love became transactional.
Mm.
I can't get love if I don't present something, but everything I present isn't good enough. So I never get the love. So I have to create something better. And that is an impossible task. So you just keep striving higher and higher and higher. But inside you, or inside me, was the story that no matter what I did, even upon presentation, the whisper is, "It's not good enough. You could do better." Then that activates OCD, that activates perfectionism, that activates all these other behaviors, which now, again, now that it starts dogpiling. So imagine sitting there going, the other story I tell at the beginning is, "Oh, I see an attractive female I want to engage with." And in seconds, the internal dialogue just, it doesn't like stop me. It literally tore me apart, where it's like, "Who do you think you are? You're gonna go do this? Are you crazy?" And then because I have such a visual mindset, I could see like thousands of scenarios just unfold, and my internal self-worth just gets torn apart to a point where not only do I not engage, I want to leave because I'm just hurting so bad from myself. No one did anything. No one heard anything. No, I never said anything. It all happened inside. And that's the power of the stories that we create from the traumas that we experience.
That's the
And that's
prison.
how it all started. And and I didn't understand it was a prison. It's like it's a prison. It's the prison guards. It's an entire structure, and it's so perfect.
Yeah.
Because we created it. Every moment of every day that we live, if we're not aware that we're perfecting this cell that we're in.
It's
We
protection,
live it.
isn't it? We want to protect ourselves.
But what are we protecting ourselves from?
Rejection, that fear of maybe humiliation, confirmation that we're not enough. I feel like your story is so relatable that I've been in that spot where countless times I feel like I'm finally, age 52, I'm breaking through my prison, but I've been there. I've stopped myself from moving forward with things because of this belief that I'm not enough, that I'm not strong enough, smart enough. That was my Achilles heel. I'm not smart enough.
And I believe everyone goes through that. So it's the guilt and shame. So it's self-worth, low self-esteem, not understanding how to embrace and, how would I put it? Embrace and process these dark emotions. I don't want to say negative. They're just dark emotions because we're never taught how to. So we're constantly seeking pleasurable emotions. And then when these dark emotions come up, we go, "Oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't like how this feels." And then that's where alcohol and substances to numb out or to escape
Yeah.
from this. And what I didn't understand is you can't outrun it. It'll build up, and eventually you're going to have to face it. If I never did the work to understand how to do that, I'd still be running. And to be honest, the turning point was an all-night. It was an all-night bender, May 3rd. Pretty sure it's May 3rd, 2013, which
Wow.
was a Friday morning. I went home, and that was a bender that started on Wednesday.
Wow, Winston.
So I got home, looked at myself in the mirror, and a little voice inside my head whispered, "I don't want to die."
Hmm.
And that was it. Like, the fear of death is a serious motivator, and it was, if you continue this lifestyle, you're going to be dead within 5 years. It's not a if, it's just a when, because the body can't sustain so much abuse.
No.
But the level of abuse was directly correlated by how much pain it was in.
What do you think that voice was?
And that was a lot of the work that I had to do. So it was like, who's speaking? Like, who's speaking to me? Is this my voice? When I heard the "I don't want to die," I realized at that moment that it wasn't me, because I didn't say it. Did I think it? And then I didn't dive into it at that point. But as I started doing the work and walking down my path to heal, I realized, I started engaging with this. I'm like, well, there's multiple voices, but this one was different because it was very faint, and I felt it differently. So it wasn't our inner critic that sits there and just talks crap about you all the time. It's not the Bash Brothers guilt and shame. Like that, those are all different voices. This one was unique, and that's when I started really listening and following it. And over time, I realized that it actually wasn't just a voice. As I started listening very closely, it was a voice, and then it would start splitting, and then there were actually more than one voice there. And then if I started paying attention, okay, there's two voices, but they speak slightly differently. I could only hear one, I could hear two. And then as I kept doing the work, there's a third one, there's a fourth one. Inside me right now, there's 7 separate voices, facets of who I am. And each one of them have their own way of speaking. When little Winston, he sits here, he speaks to me. I have an artist, he speaks in images. I have my champion, I call him Spaceman Spiff. He's like balls out, like he's like a little mini Han Solo, where anything is possible. And what are you waiting for? Have my shadow, can't get rid of the shadow, got the ego, all these pieces, they all sit there and they all speak. And I'll give you a little bit of insight as to where I believe I want to get everything to be. So where life is, my analogy is a road trip, and you have your vehicle, and now I have myself and 7 passengers, 7 facets of myself. The goal isn't to say which one is wrong or right, or who's going to drive the car. It's to have harmony between everyone in the car, to say, hey, we're going to get to that point. Can we just all agree on the music we're going to play and the route we're going to take? And let's just be harmonious and get there. And then we can then change the music or have a snack or whatever. But there's a lot less noise, a lot less conflicts on the way there. And that's the work. in my opinion, to have a different experience.
I'm so fascinated by this story and this idea of these different personas that you tune into. I often think I've only identified two voices that speak to me. One is that inner critic that is telling me I'm not enough, that I can't do things, and then the other one is the inner wisdom. That's my definition. The inner wisdom, to me, that's spirit. That's God talking through my heart, my soul. And I've learned to differentiate between the two because one comes from fear, the ego, that inner critic, and I believe often it's trying to protect me, that because it's frightened of that big vision or whatever it is that I'm feeling called to do. And the other one is always comes from a place of love, always. Do you find your 7 different personas that you tune into, are they always coming from a place of love for you?
No,
they're not.
No,
Okay.
they come from all different angles. If I'm working with someone, I tell them flat out, it's you're not just speaking to me, you're speaking to multiple pieces of me. It's that I call it like the board. they're all sitting here and they're all paying attention, and they all pick up on different things. If I'm speaking to you, my artist is over here. It's like almost like a picture in picture, and he's throwing up magical paint and visions happen. And I see it in real time. So as I'm describing stuff to you, he's constantly painting. And I'm seeing stuff happen literally behind you. I have the ego and the shadow sitting there saying, what I tell people is, I hear what you're saying, but I also hear what you're not saying. And those two guys are usually the ones that go, hey, did you pick up on that? They skipped over that. They're not telling you something. And they pick up on that very, very quickly. Little Winston is one half of spirit, and I have the operator that operates the meat suit, and they all pick up on things. So I have the ability to tap into the spectrum of love to fear. We'll call it fear. I don't have a better term for it. So now I have access to the spectrum of it, and to go and work with someone, to work with myself and understand the whole story. It's not just to say, oh, we have to come from a place of love. No, we actually have to go and embrace our shadow too. We have to go and turn around and go to our shadow, which we've been usually avoiding, and to say, I see you. I'm not scared of you. I don't hate you. You are me and I'm part of you, and embrace it and integrate that part, because without the shadow, you're not whole. You're just one half of you. You gotta.
Okay, I'm so jumping to get onto that. Yes. And isn't that coming from a place of love, though? Embracing your darkness, the dark side. I think I agree 100%. We all have these different facets, and we all have some darkness in us and experience some darkness, and to embrace it and acknowledge it and to examine it. One, you have to have I think you have to have a fair amount of self-love to be able to do that. And you have to come at it from a loving place.
I would choose to say you have to come from a place of compassion.
But that's love.
I put love at a farther end of the spectrum. Like compassion is to be, like I actually consider coming from a place of too much love to actually be smothering. Like at the far end, where it's like I'm all loving. Like I actually find all loving people actually like you're way too much, because it's not real. But to be compassionate, to go and look at something or someone with curiosity and empathy and understanding, that's different. It's like I don't agree with you, I don't like you, but I love to understand you so I can understand where you're coming from. And then when I understand you, it's like, oh, I never thought about that. And then when there's connection, things can happen. But to say, I don't agree with you, hey, I love you, you're really cool, I don't agree with you, but that energy's that, like, the other person goes, no, you're not real, you're just
Yeah,
you're
I
yeah
hear what you're saying.
yeah it's a different vibe. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at from a point of, or from a space of compassion, understanding. And when I teach students, the example that I use all the time, which they relate to right away, is how many of you walk by a homeless person on the street, put up their hand. How many of you have chosen to engage the person on the street? And then you can just, I can feel like the anxiety that no one wants to answer. I'm like, there's no shame in it. Where society has conditioned us to act a certain way. So today's exercise is we're going to go out, we're going to engage with, just going to go engage with them. I'm going to offer them a coffee, and you're going to ask them and ask to tell you a story and have a conversation. And then when we debrief, they are all just amazed, like, oh, I never knew that. They're just people. Part and the part that I asked in the process is, what's worse than being homeless? What's worse than being lonely? And then I let them go. In my opinion, and my viewpoint, I should say, at first I thought the worst thing you could be in life is lonely or alone. And I held that position a lot because I said, if you had someone, then if you're hungry, you can share a piece of bread. If you're sad, you have someone else there. It doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're alone, you just don't have anyone around you. So I said lonely. And it wasn't until it was a winter, I walked by this lady. It was just sitting on the street, and she said, I'm so cold. And I stopped and I said, look, I don't have any money to give you, but I'd be happy to buy you something hot to eat, some coffee, soup, and anything to warm you up. And her reply was, thank you, but I have all that. Just thank you for stopping and seeing me.
And seeing me.
Yeah. And I go, then I just got punched in the head almost by, I realized she'd rather be seen than to be warm. And I go, the worst thing, I go, so that's being invisible.
Yeah. And how many people feel invisible?
So to look at it from, so that shifted my perspective. So it's like loving and giving. I want to give and help you. But to go and now shift, it's like, I see you. How can I help you? That changes the perspective from here down to here. And how those words, how the energy that gets put behind it, how you act towards that person shifts. That's why I choose to say you have to come from a place of compassion. It is, it's in the spectrum of love,
100%.
but to say that you have to be loving, to me, I could feel my skin kind of crawl. It's like, yeah, but because by being compassionate, you also take into the fact that there is ugliness and darkness and fear and pain. And often I find people that choose to operate only from a place of love disregard that. It's like, you know what, that's okay, or dismiss it. It's like, that's okay, you'll get better. It's like, oh, thanks. We're just saying, I understand your pain. And that's where, when I did the work to myself, I had to look at myself. And someone, the famous question, if you can go back and talk to a 20-year-old version of yourself, what would you say? I finally got to that point where I said, hey, Winston, I see you, and I understand you're in a lot of pain.
Awesome. I was going to grab that. I see you. Like, we need to have that conversation with ourselves and say, I see you.
Yeah. You're in a lot of pain. I get it. You're in a lot of pain, and you have no one to talk to.
Mhm.
You believe that no one understands, and then when when you add those ingredients into the story, that dysfunctional story matrix, like no one understands, no one gets me, I can't connect with anyone. So you create this persona, this mask, and people start engaging with the mask and liking the mask. That really starts messing with you. Now it's like, well, people like this, I have to be like this, I can't be me. And then now you just become totally disconnected with yourself because you believe that no one wants to be with who you are, they want to be with who this is. So you have to keep putting on this act in order to get the attention and the engagement that you've always wanted, totally understanding that that's not you.
Yeah.
And the more I did that, the more and more disconnected I became. So it's almost, I'd say it's like taking little Winston and say, you wait right here, I'll be back. And then you just keep walking and totally forget because you got distracted as to how to get back there.
That's so interesting. Again, very relatable. Trying to live up to expectations of society too, I think is a big pressure on a lot of us. And so we feel we have to be a certain way, and we buy into it. And I believe we lose sight of, in the process, I believe we lose sight in what we really want and who we really are. And that
Mhm.
that happened with me, and it just about ruined my marriage. So, fortunately, I figured it out. Won't get into that story right now, another time perhaps, but it took a lot of courage to look in at myself, to
Yeah.
really look. It wasn't easy. It
So,
wasn't easy. It took a lot of time and a commitment to understand who I am, what I want, and why it matters. And I think those are the three important questions that we always have to ask ourselves. Who am I?
well,
What do I want? And why does it matter?
well, I will pose a question to your listeners that my guide Feather posed to me. I shared a story about what I wanted. I don't remember the exact story, but her reply was, um, why do you want, like, why do you want it? What is over there that you want so bad, that you want so bad? What is it? I go, what do I want? Why do I want it so bad? And I was at a loss because, and then as I'm processing that, I'm very much stuck in my head, right? So the want is here, but the true want is down here. And it took me a while with her guidance to understand that. It's like, what is it you want? It's like, what is it that you want, and why do you want it so bad? And my from where I come from, if the want is from my mind, that's an ego stroke.
Yeah.
But if the want, if I really start paring it down and peeling away and looking at, no, the want, and then all of a sudden I just start this resonance I feel from inside of me. I go, okay, that's a true want.
Mm.
Or a desire, a need, or something to take me to the next level, or something that I'm meant to learn from and to grow from, versus just
Ego stroke.
an ego stroke at a thing or something cool, or a material thing. Like, I can manifest material stuff all the time. I've proven it to myself, and it's just stuff. And then at the end, it's like, yeah, that was fun. But didn't really meet up to what I thought it would be, and then you drop it and off you go. But if you can tune into like, a soul level want, and you experience that, it those are hard to shake.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Winston, I want to stop you there because I want to dive into that. What is that process for you? How do you peel back the layers and really get to what it is you want and decipher between that what the ego wants and what your heart is calling for you to.
It's I call it onion theory or onion
Onion
practice. There are, you know, you go back the layers. Yeah, they're all different iterations of it.
Yeah.
But simply put, you can do it by yourself with a piece of, you know, with a pad, or I actually find it a lot better if you do it with someone. The reason is when you do it by yourself, you know, the dysfunctional stories and your ego and all that can prevent you from writing down what you really want to write down. But if you have to say it to someone and you feel the resistance, then you go, oh, okay, that's resistance. So the process is you write down why, you know, what is it you want, or just whatever the statement is. Like I want to go to Cancun, for example, and then you ask yourself why, and you have to write down 10 answers, and you take those 10 answers, you throw it away, and then you have to write 10 more. And all the answers have to be different from the previous one. And as you keep going until you feel, and you will feel, for me, it's like this bubble that comes up that doesn't want to share what it is. And then that's when you know you're getting really close to the truth. And when you are able to punch through that, when you finally start feeling the resistance, you know you're getting closer to the true reason as to why you want what that is. And when you can get to the truth of that, you'd be, I can't say for everyone, for me, I actually find how simple that request is, but it's masked in so much guilt and shame from the trauma that it's almost like this little boy, and all he wants, like, I just want to go play on the beach. That's all I want to do. I just want to play on the beach. But there's so much guilt and shame from conditioning wrapped around that it's like, no, I want to go to Cancun so I can go and snorkel and party and play beach volleyball and all this stuff. It's like, no, the root answer is all it wants to do is just to go and walk on the beach and play in the water. Like, you can see how this is the want, and this is the story that we made up to wrap all these layers around this very simple request, want, that we had it like as a child. But then we were told you can't have it, you're not until you pass through grade, you can't have it, you can't do it, you're not good enough, we don't, like, whatever it is, it's just layers upon layers. So now we have this grandiose want for a very simple request, and when we can get down to that level, I can say, wow, what, and this is when curiosity kicks in. What else do I want? That's that simple. Like, I want to go have an ice cream cone. Oh, I gotta go out and just get trashed and then order ice cream for dessert. This is what I truly wanted. And when you can start, and it's scary work. I'm not saying it's simple at all, because you might find yourself and think that this is it, and then you could actually keep going further and further down until you feel it, when you can access that want, like whatever that desire is. It's freeing.
Yeah.
Because it's true. And that's what I had to go through.
And is that something that you practice constantly? Like, it's not like a one and done, it's like a continuous journey of tapping into and trying to figure out what it is that you want?
I wish I could say I was this had a perfect track record, but I'd probably say I'm successful at this point 30% of the time. I'm not even going to make it up that I constantly fall back into the conditioning, because I didn't understand how strong the conditioning is. We've been facing the conditioning our entire lives.
Yeah.
So for us to go up, and I've done the work, and the conditioning for me is this big ass brutal guard that is preventing you from getting to the other side. So you walk up and it just literally, just imagine King Kong just sitting there just swatting you. And it hurts. And it wants you to submit, it wants you to conform. And then you go back up and you try again, and it,
Right.
smashes you. You have to continually pick yourself up. It's like, why do I want this? Right. I want to get to the other side. I want to get to the other side. And when you do, it's rewarding.
Yeah,
But
that there's greatness there, right? There's greatness within you, and that those little voices that you hear, those personalities that are saying that to you, Winston, you're awesome, and they
but
want you to push past that prison, right?
the guard just comes back, saying, "Who the hell do you think you are? Smash! Go
Yeah.
back there!" And then it kicks you back in, and then or it picks you up and starts beating. It's like, "Do you want to go there? Who do you think you are?" Starts beat. We start beating on ourselves,
Yeah,
basically.
totally. We're that guard.
Uh,
Yeah.
but as you get past once, and the key is once you get past once, you know it's possible, and
Yeah.
that's all you need to know, that it's
Yeah.
possible. I did it once, I can do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Second time, you might be even more punishing, but then you have that internal belief that you go, I've done it once. I know it's possible. I can do it again. And then when you do it again, that the power that the guard has diminishes.
Right.
Doesn't mean that it's any easier. It just means that now that you've done it a few times, you know that it's possible, and then you have the perseverance to continue.
It gives you the confidence that you've done it before. It's like you've learned that you can do it. So by learning, you can then go and do it again.
Yeah.
And I think it does get a little easier. I think.
It does. Like, you can say, okay, the first 10 steps to sneak past to
Yeah.
sneak past it. It's like playing a video game. It's like you get the motions down, and then you can bypass most of
Yeah.
the first steps because they're always the same. It's the latter steps, as you get closer and closer, it gets more subtle and devious, because they go, oh, Winston's coming again. Here we go.
Hmm.
And what movie is he going to try this time? And that's the work to start undoing the conditioning. And when
Mhm.
I don't know if we can ever truly undo all of it, but if you undo it to a low enough point, then you can bypass it, but it will still always be there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it still will always be there. I think also it's a big key is recognizing what is happening. Like if I can identify that, oh yeah, that's just my fear of failure, or fear of humiliation or rejection or whatever it is. Like I've been here before, and the way through it is just to keep pushing myself, keep on this track, and believe in myself. And so my process, Winston, is I go for walks in the forest, and I have these conversations with God, the universe, and put it out there. And I'm talking to myself and convincing myself that yes, I can do this, and that really helps me take the next step. Like just for this podcast, for instance, it's taken me a year to actually do it, because I was initially really afraid to put myself out there and talk about things like God and the universe, and my Achilles heel of feeling like I'm not smart enough. Like those are hard things for me to talk about, yet I knew was mine to do, and I needed to find the confidence and the courage
Mm.
to do it. It took me a year, a year, and here we are. So, and this is part of my journey, and I like to call it the joyful journey, because every step I take is getting me closer to experiencing more and more joy. And I feel like I am living a really joyful life. It's because I'm taking action towards conquering my fears or addressing my fears. And I like the word you use, the phrase you use, embracing the dark. I think we do have to embrace it. We all have it. We have to face it and embrace it and try to
So
understand it.
the embracing part, the story that goes behind it. So it was that day I said I didn't want to die, and my lifestyle was, people say it's like it's like you're going down in flames with the plane type thing. And yeah, I was it was like a meteor coming down. I was I was escaping so hard that
Mm.
that's all I wanted to do, because I didn't, just like I knew the monsters were coming, not understanding that uh, what I'm being shown is it's like that dog that's chasing you, thinking that it's going to eat you, when all the dog wants to do is like, hey, I just want to say hi. Right? But we're just like, oh my god, this dog's chasing after me. We're running to a point where if we're running for so long, we don't even know why we're running anymore. We just know that we have to keep running.
Mm.
And when I finally, and it took years to go from that point of I don't want to die to getting my my mind, body, and spirit healthy. So it started with getting the body healthy, and then as the body started getting healthy, and then I started drinking the substances, then the soul, the spirit could heal, because it's just not being poisoned all the time. The body's not being poisoned, and I can I can start healing that. And when that started healing, all all these other things I didn't even know about started happening, where I started, I got to feel. And as weird as that may sound to people, I've only been able to feel a full range of emotions 3 years ago.
Hmm.
So prior to that, I had a very stunted emotional range. So that started happening, and then when that started happening, I realized, like, there are things I've been missing out on, and that's that the land of illusion I talk about. When you're operating with diminished capacities and filters all over the place that we created, what we're taking in is not what's actually happening out there. It's all we get to see and experience and feel. Been missing out. Uh, so so when the filters start coming down and the stories start going away and the spirits start healing, that's when I call it the signal to noise ratio. That's when the whispers start getting louder and the noise starts going down. It's like, hey, I can hear you. Oh, you want me to, I always say, oh, turn left instead of right. Why? Okay, you know what? You said turn left. I turn left. And then it's like, oh, I missed all that traffic over there.
Mhm.
Thanks for the tip. I'm sure many of you experience that. Like, just like simple little nudges. But where did the nudge come from? And if you follow the nudges, and again, people, your listeners might have had what I described like the perfect day. Like, I would call it the perfect day, where everything just unfolded beautifully. When you're happy and things are happening and you follow the guidance, it's like, do this, do this, do this. It just the momentum just builds. And then at the end of the day, it's like, wow, that was like the best day ever. That's because you're following the guidance. Your soul, your heart just goes, let's do this, let's do this. And you're like, okay, okay, okay. And away you go. And it's supposed to be that easy. We're taught that it's not supposed to be that easy. I go, when it is that easy, I'm like, why don't I live like this all the time? And I'm not going to say it is difficult. I'm still working on getting to that state where uh, I'm following the guidance more than I'm following myself. Yeah,
Trusting, getting to that place that we trust it and listen to it all the time.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love follow the nudges. I might steal that. Follow the nudges. I love that a lot. I want to ask you, how do you define spirit? What is that?
Spirit, for me, I define it as you watch Men in Black.
Yeah.
Okay, you know that scene where the little alien is inside the head operating the robot. So spirit is the operator, and spirit resides in this meat suit, and makes, so spirit soul is what's in the meat suit, so it's living in here.
Yeah.
um and that's how I visualize it. So it makes everything work, and it's experiencing everything through, it's inside here, so it can't actually experience what's going on. It's interpreting everything through our eyes or senses and everything, and then all of the other facets are guiding it.
All the other facets are guiding it. What are the other facets?
You know, little Winston, soul,
Ah,
spirit, all the other voices are actually going, if you want to go, I tried to explain this to a younger class, so it made sense. I go, okay, you see people in spaceships, like, you know, the communication systems where they don't know who's talking to them, but they hear stuff. And they go, yeah, just like that. It's like, you're by yourself. You're in the space. It's like, oh, hey, like, you know, well, hey, Winston, how you doing? You don't know what, like, you think that's, you know, someone back at the base station radioing in. Okay, why do you listen to that? Why is the pilot listening to that? Why are they listening to whatever's coming in? They can choose to tune into it or not. So again, so where are these voices coming from? So that's why I say, so all these voices that I have now clearly identified, and I'm sure there are more, help guide spirit forward.
That's really interesting. That's really, I'm fascinated, fascinated by you and your stories and your definitions. And I feel like I've picked up some really great insights and things that I want to try as well. I'm I like to think of spirit as my highest self as well. You know, it's learning how to listen to that highest self. I believe that if the world learned how to tap into and listen to that highest self, oh my God, we'd be in such a better place.
The how I've had similar conversation with Feather, and it took me a while to wrap my brain around this one, where she said, I am you and you are me, and we are the same thing.
I
All of
believe that.
all of us are the same thing, and each of us are having a unique experience, so we can learn.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah. So if that is the case, then to reframe what you said, spirit isn't up there. Like spirit, we are all the same
Yeah.
spirit. So we are the
And if we learn to tap into that and listen to it, we would be in such a better place. I want to, this is tied in to this, something that I've started practicing with this idea that we are all one. Going back to you and sending your students out into the street to connect with homeless people. I've started to imagine myself as I am that man. I am that woman sitting on the corner and with her guitar case and her copper pan for donations. I am the man who's walking on the street talking to himself or maybe his higher self. And in doing this exercise, I feel tremendous compassion for these individuals, as whereas before I would cross the street and walk, you know, try to avoid them. And now I'm imagining myself that I am them. I am you. I am that. And it just puts you in a different place of connecting with who you are. And I believe it makes you, helps you really feel the compassion that we need to feel in this world. It's an interesting exercise. Try
I
it.
I learned that from my dog.
From your dog. Okay.
My my dog doesn't have judgment. I'll
Mm.
share the story another time where I learned from my dog. It was when I was walking her, and I heard off on the side, it's like that's a beautiful dog, and I looked over, and it was a homeless person, and my dog sitting there looking at the pigeons and sniffing around, and then she trotted over there, and I remember when I told the story the first time, I said, yeah, and I let her engage.
Mm.
And I'm going, I let her engage. Huh. Why did I not say that about the guy with the suit or the pretty lady? Why did I choose to say I let her engage with the homeless person?
Hmm.
She didn't choose. She engages with everybody, right? And then I picked up on my own judgment and conditioning
Ah.
on that. It's like, yeah, why did I say that it's okay to engage with these people but not these people?
Mhm.
And I really had to sit with that one. And so now when we go for a walk and she's looking at someone, then I'll stop and I'll look at them like, what do you see that I can? Okay, let's go look at that person and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I realized that when I walk with her, if we just take a moment to just be in the space that we're walking in, there's so much happening and not happening. When I say not happening, I mean so many people that are disconnected.
Yeah.
Here's a person, on on their device crossing the street or listening to their music, and there's cars going by. It's like you are just so, I call it siloed, your
Yeah.
own little silo. You're totally oblivious to anything that's going on, and that's that social disconnection that I'm talking about. Or I watch people rush. Where are you rushing off to? Why are you in such a hurry? Or just happen to listen to a conversation. I go, it's not really a conversation. That's it's like verbal ping pong going
Mm.
over there. And looking at the space I'm in as a whole, I'm wondering what I can do to shift this. Not to change it, just to shift it. It's not to go in there and say, yeah, and interrupt people in their conversations. Hey, you should guys do this. Like, no, like what could I do to shift this? What could I do to improve connection? And then the realization was I have to create the spaces to
Mm.
introduce and have people practice. I didn't say teach, practice.
Practice. And hence VoiceStory was born. Awesome. You are somebody who I believe is operating from your highest self, and you are a leader who wants to make a difference in the world, that you want to have impact. And I am really honored to know you and to have this time with you today, Winston. Thank you so much for sharing a piece of your story with us today, and giving me some more ways to look at things and think about things. So thank you so much. I am so grateful for you.
Oh, you're welcome. And as I said, there's a lot, and I'm sure we covered a whole gamut of topics. And if your your listeners have any questions, feel free to email or reach out to me at winston@voicestory.ca. I'd be happy to engage and answer any thoughts or comments or questions, or you just want to connect and experience what can come out of that. Because as I said, in order to create the change, we have to initiate it ourselves.
100%. Yeah. And when we come together, so one of the reasons why I really wanted to start this podcast was to heighten the collective consciousness. And it's through conversations like this. It's through connecting with other people that want something more for our world and want to come from a place of their highest self. And when we connect with others that are doing that, we're stronger together. We're simply stronger together, and we make a bigger impact. So if anything that was said today in this show resonates with you, please do reach out to Winston or myself. We will put Winston's contact information in the story notes. So yeah, please do even just reach out and say hello. And if you liked this show, please leave a review for us. It all helps. All right. And I think with that, Winston, we'll sign off.
Awesome. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.